Hi, I'm Kari Clements. I'm one of the English lecturers here at UH West Oahu, and I'm here for an interview. In general, I've always loved reading. I kind of grew up on books. I was one of those kids that always had a book in their hand, walking around. It was reading that really just kind of entranced me, and how some certain authors wrote and presented some of their messages in their books. Even as I kept reading, I kept with that idea of the messages and the stories and the concepts behind them. And then at some point, I came across what occurs to almost every English major at some time, which is, I want to write. I want to make my living as a writer. And then I found out the practicalities of making your living as a writer and how difficult that is. And I'm like, okay, well, while I'm doing that, I want to learn as much as I can about writing and about the craft and about English in general. How do you do all this with words? It's amazing. And so along the way, I ended up studying more and more English, and that became, that for me in college was the most interesting thing to study. I loved it. I loved it. My specialty was creative writing. And so but really all of it comes together and all of it knits together, and you need to know about all of it to see English as a whole. And so I pursued my bachelor's in English, got my bachelor's in English, and with a minor in Asian studies, which was kind of interesting, and maybe a little self-serving as I'm Asian myself, but you know. So my undergrad was at Randolph-Macon College in Virginia. I went there because I have some relatives further up north in the DC area, so it became kind of a very good, convenient place to set up shop. After that, I came back to Hawaii and realized that a bachelor's in English does not necessarily specialize you for any particular occupation. And that's not a bad thing. That just means that you need to learn how to turn your craft towards practical applications on your own, or if available, learn how to in college. I was working as a receptionist, which was not the best application of my major, but for me it was a placeholder job, because following that I had a job as a contract writer, which was really neat. I had a job as a contract writer, and while doing that, I was working towards my master's. And this was at UH, University of Hawaii at Manoa, where I went for my master's in creative writing. One of the really nice things about a master's in creative writing was that my graduate thesis ended up being, or a master's thesis ended up being a novel. Well, in my case, a novella. But I actually finally got to write that book. Individual companies or organizations will occasionally need writers to put together any number of writing pieces. In my particular case, I was working for the Club 100, which is the 100th Battalion's clubhouse here in Hawaii. They are the veterans of the 1st Japanese American battalion from World War II. It was effectively, in a sense, writing a major research paper on them, and so to get paid for that, to have that as a job, was the perfect transition out of academia into kind of occupational writing, because all the skills transferred very, very easily. For me, it was extremely gratifying, because my grandfather was a member of the 100th Battalion. That's actually how I learned about the opportunity. So I taught at Manoa for a few years, for about a year, and then West gave me a call, and they did a phone interview there, and I came in and I taught a few classes, and this ended up being kind of the perfect environment for me. At this point, I had learned enough about crafting my own course, about my own syllabus, about selecting sources, about crafting assignments for students, that I ended up, I could create this course, and I could operate it, and after a while I began to realize I liked what I was doing, and that maybe is such a little thing, but this this job of teaching, particularly here at UH West, at some point I started realizing I would get up in the morning and I was happy to go to class. It was never get up out of bed and thinking, oh, I gotta go teach. It was, all right, time to get up and teach. I liked my career. I liked teaching. What began as originally kind of a default against something I was fighting against became this amazing career that I love doing.